want to talk about colons. The colon is the most dramatic mark of punctuation we have. It's like a trumpet fanfare. Da, 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 da. Here it is. So the number one word to think about for colons is present. Colons present. A colon presents. Right here, right now, here it is. That's what your tone of voice is saying whenever you use colon. So if it's presenting three things, a list, example, and formal quote, your relationship with the thing or things you're presenting with the colon is a dramatic one. Right here, right now, here's the list. Right here, right now, here's the example. Right here, right now, here's the formal quote. So again, remember that the colon lists three things: a list, example, formal quote. Remember also that the colon presents it. That's what it's there to do. Okay, it's a wonderful mark of punctuation to have in your wheelhouse because it allows you to have that moment where you right here and right now present something. So let's explain the difference between the list, example, and the formal quote. Well, a list is a number of items grouped for a purpose. That's a very clinical definition of it, but it's what it is. Okay, so if I give a shopping list, there's a common purpose between the items in the list. If I say I have three friends, there's a common purpose of friendship that's between them. So what the list is that number of items. It can be 2 items, it can be 4 million. I wouldn't do that, but many different items can be in there. Now the example has the same exact dynamic, except it's a list with 1 item. Same thing, you say something and then you list it, right? And then the formal quote is a full analytical sentence with a colon that tells the reader something to look for in the quote. Now this brings up an important point to mention, that in standard writing essays, you want to assume that there's a colon, there's a full sentence before a colon. That's not absolute, but it's a good starting place, and we want to talk about it as absolute in this class so that you're going to use that assumption that if you are using a colon in an essay, it's after a full quote. Now, what the sentence before that full quote says is, here is a list, example, or formal quote that I want you to look at. It can also give you a reason to look at that. So let's look at some examples here. With the list, I got 3 things for my birthday: golf club balls, a bread maker, and world peace. I got 3 things for my birthday: golf balls, a bread maker, and world peace. Now, what that sentence says before the colon is, here are the 3 things, and here's the reason I'm mentioning you see 3 things. I got 3 things for my birthday. What are those things? Golf balls, a bread maker, and world peace. Now, if we have the same dynamic with an example, you would just have 1 item. I got 1 thing for my birthday: world peace. World peach, I see. World peace, I asked for a bread maker. Okay. So notice the same exact tone of voice. And I want to stress again this tone of voice we have when we use colons. It's a tone of voice we use in everyday speech. We do. Okay, we say things with an expectation sometimes that you're going to listen to these, right? So if you said, I've got 1 thing to say to you, listen to that tone of voice, and your tone of voice you're using. That tone of voice is saying, here's the 1 thing I promised. Here it is. Okay. So the same thing goes in writing. If it's a list, example, or formal quote, it doesn't matter. You're still saying something in a full sentence before it and then presenting that 1 thing after it. Okay. So let's look at the formal quote, which is going to be the biggest one where you're going to use a colon in essays. Because what the formal quote allows you to do is it allows you to say something and then immediately present the evidence for the thing you're talking about. It allows you not to have to say, he says, or he said, or she said. Look at this example. King cuts his crusade down to a simple core. I am in Birmingham because injustice is here. So I don't have to say, King cuts his crusade down to a simple core when he says, I'm in Birmingham. I don't have to say that because the colon says it for me. Okay. So I want to stress that this is a very cool, very simple, and very powerful way to use the colon, because it allows you to right then, right there, without saying anything more about it, give the quote. This is what I want you to use in all your essays. I want it to be your go-to move. Okay. In fact, I want to stress on this. Okay, actually, I didn't write it up here. If the quote is a sentence or longer, use the formal quote. And what is the formal quote? A full analytical sentence with a colon. This should be your go-to move. Again, if the quote is a sentence or longer, use a formal quote. Now, you're not going to have all teachers ask for you this. In fact, I make a bigger deal out of the formal quote than I think most of my colleagues do, but I think it's a good move to have. It's one that you're going to want to use over and over again. It allows you to save so much time. It allows you to more dramatically present it and say, right here, right now, here's the quote. Now, I've said that the colon follows a full sentence, but I'm willing to bet you've seen it without a full sentence. You have. Okay. And one major way you've seen it is on gifts. Okay. So for example, we have to and from. Okay. To, and what do you put in that to? You put to Tim, I'm going to give myself a gift from, who's giving it? The cosmos. Okay. So notice this is following the same thing, but we want to think, well, why are they using a colon here? There isn't a full sentence. And what you realize is that they're using that because this is saying right in this space, I'm going to put to whom it's to. And right in this space, I'm going to put whom it was from. It's presenting it. The other way we'll generally see it is in formal salutations for letters. And that would be like this, to whom it may concern. But think again why that's using that construction then, because what this is doing is it's saying, here is a letter to whom it may concern. Either way, the number one dynamic for a colon always goes back to the present. Right here, right now. Here's who it's to. Right here, right now. Here's who it's from. Right here, right now. Here's who the letter is going forward. So then remember, these are some times that you will see people use colons without full sentences. These are the biggest instances. But I want you to read as writers and take a look and notice how often people will bend the rules I'm talking about here to get different effects. Now, since they're bending the rules, there have to be rules there for them to bend. Know these rules and understand how you can work with them. You will write better.